There are trucks sitting in barns and driveways right now with over 400,000 miles on them. The only reason they're still running is because their owners never let a dealership touch them after the warranty expired. That is not an accident. That is a survival strategy. We are going to talk about what it actually takes to keep a pre-2007 truck alive past 500,000 miles, why that number is even possible on older platforms, and why the same result is almost impossible on what they're selling you today. Because the gap between a 2003 F-250 with a 6.0 Powerstroke that has been properly maintained and a 2022 truck with cylinder deactivation, a 12-volt mild hybrid system, and a subscription-locked tow rating is not just a gap in technology. It is a gap in who actually owns the vehicle. Let us start with what makes older trucks survivable in the first place. A pre-2007 diesel or gas truck, especially anything built before the 2007 emissions mandates kicked in on the diesel side, is mechanically a different category of machine. The 7.3 Powerstroke, the 12-valve and 24-valve Cummins, the Duramax LB0 and LLY, early-generation Vortec gas engines. These platforms were engineered at a time when the highest priority was mechanical durability, not fuel economy compliance, not emission score, not over-the-air software updates. Durability. And the difference shows up in the parts count, the sensor count, the failure point count, and the repairability when something does eventually break. On a 7.3 Powerstroke, an injector replacement is painful and expensive, but it is doable in a driveway with the right tools and factory service manual. On a 6.7 Powerstroke, built after 2011, you're dealing with a selective catalytic reduction system, a diesel particulate filter, an exhaust gas recirculation cooler that has a documented history of cracking under heat cycles, and a high-pressure fuel system that requires proprietary diagnostic tools just to read the right parameters. The repair is no longer just mechanical. The repair requires software permission. That is not a conspiracy. That is a documented reality of post-emissions era diesel ownership in the United States. And what they don't tell you when you finance that 2022 truck is that the emissions hardware alone, if it fails outside of warranty, can generate a repair bill that approaches or exceeds the trade-in value of the truck. A failed diesel particulate filter on a late-model Ram or Ford Super Duty can run $3,000 to $5,000 at a dealership. A failed DEF system that throws the truck into a reduced power mode can strand you on a job site with no workaround except a tow and a dealer appointment. They call that a safety feature. Mechanics call it a leash. So how do you actually keep an older truck alive past 500,000 miles? Not theoretically, practically. It starts with oil. Not the interval they printed on the sticker, the actual interval for the load you're putting on the engine. A 7.3 or a 12-valve Cummins running heavy tow cycles needs oil changes on the shorter end of the recommendation, and the owners who hit high mileage know that. 5,000 miles under load. Synthetic that actually meets the viscosity spec for the engine, not whatever was on sale at the parts store. It sounds basic because it is basic, but the difference between a 7.3 that grenades at 200,000 and one that crosses 500,000 is almost always maintenance rhythm combined with cooling system discipline. The cooling system on these older diesels is the second survival system. On the 7.3 Powerstroke, the coolant depletion additive issue is well documented. The engine uses a wet sleeve design that will erode liner walls if the coolant chemistry is not maintained correctly. Ford and Navistar specified a supplemental coolant additive and a flush interval. Most guys who lost engines early skipped it. Most guys who are still running at 400,000 did not. That one detail, a $10 bottle of additive and a coolant flush on schedule, separates a working truck from a core charge. Fuel systems on older mechanical or early common rail diesels respond to quality. Running cheap fuel over high mileage accelerates injector wear. The guys hoarding old Cummins and Powerstroke trucks know this. They run fuel additives, they use a water separator filter housing, and they drain it. They don't run the tank to empty. These are not high-tech solutions. They are ownership discipline applied to a mechanical system that rewards it.
Now here's where it gets serious. Part availability. The window on quality replacement parts for pre-2007 trucks is not permanent. We're already seeing it with certain components. Fuel injection parts for the 7.3, specifically certain injector O-ring kits and the high-pressure oil pump, are getting harder to source from quality domestic suppliers. Some components are being manufactured overseas with tolerances that don't meet spec and are failing early. Remanufactured injectors for older Cummins engines vary wildly in quality depending on the rebuilder. The salvage yard supply of donor vehicles is being crushed or exported as the fleet ages out. What mechanics who are hoarding these trucks right now are buying new, old stock, finding sealed boxes of injectors, sensors, seals, valve cover gaskets, HPOP components, fuel system parts, and storing them. Not because they're preppers, because they understand supply chain reality. Ford stopped producing certain factory components for the 7.3 platform years ago. The aftermarket filled the gap, but the aftermarket is not permanent either.
If you own one of these trucks and you are planning to run it past 300,000, buy your consumables now. Buy your hard-to-find parts now. Because 5 years from now, the quality of available replacement parts for a 20-plus-year-old truck is going to look very different than it does today. There is also the regulatory threat that most owners are not tracking closely enough. Several states have already signaled through their emissions enforcement programs that older vehicles, including work trucks, could face increased inspection scrutiny. This is part of broader air quality compliance pushes tied to federal EPA incentives. California already has programs targeting older diesel commercial vehicles with what amounts to economic pressure to retire them. Other states are watching. Some are moving.
If you own a pre-emissions diesel and your state tightens its inspection program, you may find yourself in a situation where a mechanical truck that runs perfectly cannot pass a visual emissions check because it lacks hardware that was never installed from the factory. That is not hypothetical. That is already playing out for commercial operators in certain Western states. And this is exactly why the people who are beating these trucks past 500,000 miles are not just mechanical discipline people. They are also strategic about where they register, where they operate, and what modifications they avoid that would create a paper trail problem during a title transfer or inspection. The modern truck sitting at the dealership right now, the one with the adaptive suspension, the cylinder deactivation on the V8, the 10-speed transmission, the integrated telematics module that reports location and fault codes to the manufacturer, that truck is not built for 500,000 miles in private ownership. It is built for a lease cycle, a warranty period, and a trade-in. The revenue model depends on you not keeping it. Subscription towing features, over-the-air updates that can change your vehicle's behavior without a shop visit, dealer-only calibration resets after certain repairs. This is the architecture of a vehicle that the manufacturer continues to control after you write the check. The pre-2007 truck sitting in your driveway right now does not phone home. It does not have a kill switch tied to a payment processor. It does not lose features if you do not renew something. It just runs as long as you maintain it like someone who intends to keep it. That is the difference, and that difference is worth protecting.
If you own one of these trucks and you're planning to run it for the long haul, I want to hear where you are in the mileage. Drop your platform and your odometer in the comments. How many miles are you sitting at, and what's the one repair that nearly ended the run? If this channel is the one corner of the internet that still talks about real truck ownership, hit subscribe. We're not going away, and neither are the good trucks.